So in today's video, I am going to be using this darning egg that I picked up from Loop London about a month ago now, and I wanted to put into practice, or at least to try, some visible mending techniques. And I'm using Hikaru Noguchi's darning book as a guide. I have a pair of old socks, my husband's socks, one of which is worn out completely in the heel, and the other one it's worn thin, so I'm expecting that to break through soon. So from flicking through Hikaru's book, there are different darning stitches and techniques you can use depending on the type of repair that you're trying to make. Or you could just be using it to cover stains or just to add some decorative touches. I'm going to repair the heel in this case and then reinforce the heel in the other case. I found this mending wool in a local haberdashery and they're in like the sale bin. So I picked up one of each colour that I could find, and they are 55% wool and 45% nylon. So I think the nylon will give the mending some strength. And I got them in these really nice colours actually. So white, chocolate brown, navy, and then a beige colour. And to match the socks, they are a dark grey, I'd say a charcoal grey, and the heel has I think this is a lighter grey colour as well, striped. So I want it to be visible, and it will be, but I don't have any bright contrasting colours. So what I might do is just use the navy blue and the white to repair the heel. So here we go. So opening this darning egg, and it's by a brand called Saju, and I mentioned it in my previous, I think I mentioned this in my crochet podcast episode 2 about the things I got from Loop London, and this Saju egg was one of them. So it's made in France. I'm not sure what type of wood this is, but I will have a look online and I'll pop it on the screen, but it feels gorgeous actually. Really nice, smooth egg, which stands up. Does it stand? It stands up on its own. So from Hikaru's advice, the egg goes into the sock and in the area that you're trying to repair. So in this case, I've popped it in the heel, and thankfully the hole isn't big enough. The hole isn't bigger than the circumference of the widest part of the egg, but I suppose I could also put it on its side to use it as well. And in the book, Hikaru does make their own range of darning mushrooms, which, you know, the traditional shape is like a flat top and then there's a stem, so you'd hold the stem and work off the top of the mushroom for darning. But in this case, because it's an egg, the shape is different. So what I'm imagining I need to do is now hold the fabric taut around the egg and maybe secure it with an elastic band, and then I can get to stitching. So I'll do that now. So I found an elastic band, and I'm just going to secure the fabric. So that's nice and taut. I've just been reading the various, Hikaru gives you step-by-step instructions, and I'll link her book below. But she gives you step-by-step instructions with photos, which is great, on the different darning techniques. So I'm trying to find one that is more appropriate for socks. And she does have, So she has a whole chapter here on darning socks with really, really beautiful photographs. I think I might do the traditional square darning technique, which she recommends for small moth-eaten holes. Even though this is quite a large hole, I'm going to try that technique on this sock. I'm going to first need to sew the weft, no, the warp, I think. So with weaving, it's a weaving type of repair. So with weaving, you usually have warp threads, which is like your foundation threads, and then you would weave whatever materials in between those, that warp. So that's the first step here. I'm just hoping my needles, so I have this set of needles that I picked up or from my crafting stash. Let's see. Yes, okay. Bro. So now we've completed the repair and for the purposes of this video I've only done one of the socks, the one that had the huge hole in it, and as you can see we have a nicely repaired sock, and I'll show you the inside. So the inside of the sock looks like this. So I think it's a really great patch for this hole. Initially, when I had the sock stretched over the egg, I thought that the weaving would be quite a large area to cover. So the examples in the book are for small, you know, moth chewed holes and things like that. So I hadn't seen an example where the hole that you're repairing was as large as this one, but it seems to have worked fairly well. The only thing is there's some parts of the weft in the corner that I haven't quite woven in, but that doesn't really affect, from the looks of it, the integrity of the repair. And this mending wool is pretty strong in itself, so I'm hoping that it will hold out through more wear and tear of this sock. So I feel great. We've extended the life of this sock and learned a new skill. So what did I learn from doing this? One of the things I would say, if you're going to attempt the patching in this way, what did Hikaru call this? Hikaru called this one the square. And she said it's the most basic darning technique that secures the warp and weft threads, and you'll even be able to fill wide holes cleanly. And then she said changing the color of the yarn makes it look even more interesting. So that's why I chose these contrasting colors. So you have the navy and the white poking out there. So the square darning technique, one thing I would say is when you are doing the weave, so you've created your warp lines. So the initial lines are the vertical lines. So once you've created your vertical lines and then you're going to weave your horizontal lines, I would say to be very careful not to split the thread. So because this is 55% wool, and the way that the thread itself is woven, it's quite easy to split when you're going through with the sharp end of your needle. One of the tips that Hikaru has is to use the back end of the needle, so where the eye actually is, and to use that to actually weave through the threads when you're doing your horizontal lines. And I actually found that was quite effective, because the problem I had when I started it was I went through the thread a few times, and if you do that, when you go to weave in the next row, it won't sit properly. And you'll probably have seen in parts of the video, after every few threads that I do the under-over technique, I would then use the back of my needle to push the thread down so that the weaving is kind of pressed down. But yeah, if you go through the thread itself, you won't be able to do that. So your weaving won't quite lie as clean as this. But yeah, I would say I wish I had some brighter colors, but for the first attempt, I'm really quite pleased with it. I will actually probably just go and do the same on the second sock off camera, because that one isn't actually a problem yet, but as I said earlier, I can already see that it's going to be worn through, but it's not a big deal. I would say maybe another few wears of this sock and washing, so it should last up for a while. But I will try to even these two out so it looks like a design choice, but I'm actually really pleased with it. I think it has some kind of charm. It reminds me of those velvet patches that you get on the elbows of jackets and things like that. So it just, I don't know, there's something very charming about the way that this looks when it's repaired. That was a really fun project to do this afternoon. It's a really warm day and I just felt like doing some crafting indoors, and this was the craft of the day. So I really hope that you've enjoyed watching and following along, and I'd be curious to hear in the comments whether you've used a darning egg before, what your favorite or preferred technique for mending is, or what your preferred threads are, and any tips that you might like to share. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next one.